Okay, in this video, this is example 2.1 discussing motion. We're going to look at the idea of speed and distance. So it says, how far does a car travel in 6 hours when its average speed is 40 kilometers per hour? It's actually a grammatical error in there. It should be ITS, not IT apostrophe S. Okay, so the idea is that speed is the distance that you travel over the amount of time that it takes to travel that distance. In this case, we're given the time, right? 6 hours, that's the unit of time. So this is time right here. And we're given the average speed. That's our speed right there. Okay. Now, why does it say average? It says average because your speed might change a little bit, but on average, it's going 40 kilometers per hour. So let's use V for speed, D for distance. We're using symbols just to make things a little bit more efficient, and then T for time. And now we get into the algebra. We are trying to find the distance traveled, right? That would be D. We're trying to find D. So how do we find D? Well, algebraically, what we do is we multiply both sides by T. Why T? Because if we multiply by T, T divided by T is 1, right? Right. Something divided by itself is 1, unless it's 0. 0 doesn't work, but anything else, it does work. So unless T equals 0, right? Okay, but for any other time, it should work okay. So what that does then is it leads us to T times V is equal to D, and D is the distance traveled, and that's what we're asked for, right? How far? This is how far is just another way of saying what is D. So let's put in our times and velocity now. We have 6 hours. I'm going to abbreviate H for hours. Some textbooks will use HR. Your textbook uses an H, I believe. 6 hours. I'll put it in parentheses just so we see that it's got a number and a unit, right? When we're making measurements, measurements have a number and a unit, at least in general. And then we're going to multiply that by the velocity, the average velocity, 40. And then I'm going to write it this way, km for kilometers, that's the distance, divided by h for hours, that's the time, so distance over time. And that should be equal to d. Okay, now let's consider the dimensional analysis. We'll do the numbers second. We'll do the units first. H divided by h, right? Hours over hours is 1. So those units essentially divide to form 1. That leaves us with kilometers. So we know our units are going to be kilometers. That's what they should be, right? Distance is not going to be in hours. Distance is not going to be kilometers per hour. Distance is going to be in some unit of length, kilometers per se. So 6 times 40 is 240, right? So the distance traveled in this case is 240 kilometers. Okay, so a few things in there. One is units. Pay attention to your units. Pay attention to the numbers, obviously, but also pay attention to figuring out what the word translates to in terms of a symbol or a concept in physics, right? We have to figure out that speed is, given, so it says average speed, but how far, that refers to the distance. And sometimes they'll just give you the value of the time, and you have to realize that that's actually referring to time. Okay,